I have another spooky story for you guys. This one is about a person who sublet an apartment that was listed on Craigslist, and things got weird really fast. Okay, so the story goes like this. A couple of years ago, I needed a place to stay fast. I had recently gotten out of an abusive relationship and moved to another state for a job opportunity that would help me get my life back on track. At the time, I had left with just the clothes on my back, a small suitcase, and an almost empty bank account. Because of the situation with my ex, I didn't have much work history or cash, so every single apartment complex and landlord I contacted rejected my application. A friend suggested I try Craigslist as a last resort, problem number one. So I did, and finally found a cheap sublet with a tenant who was willing to give me a break. The place was perfect for what I needed. It was a small 3-story home that was fully furnished, and the tenant agreed to let me do month to month on the rent. The guy renting it out was a little awkward, but overall he seemed pretty harmless. He was looking to sublet the place because he was heading out of the country for a few months, so I'd have the place all to myself. I moved in immediately. The first couple of weeks were fine, but it was a very old building, so there were a lot of creaking and tapping sounds, particularly at night. I lived in old buildings before, so I know hearing noises is pretty common. What I was not expecting was the smell. Although it wasn't very strong, I could sense a very distinct smell that I can only describe as very old wood and rotten eggs. From time to time, I got this eerie feeling that I was being watched. I would frequently get goosebumps out of nowhere, which is not something I'm used to. About a month goes by and I hadn't heard from the tenant, and he still wasn't back. One night, I was lying in bed, drifting off to sleep, when I heard a loud bang coming from the attic, which was directly above me. I jumped out of bed and looked at the ceiling where I heard the noise and noticed a large gray circle on the ceiling that I'd never noticed before. It looked like the ceiling had maybe collapsed at some point and was patched back up. I decided I was not getting back in that bed, so I sat on a small armchair next to the door in the room. It was very late, but I was so scared that I sent a text to the tenant asking if there was anything I should know about the attic, and I explained to him what I heard. As soon as I hit send, there was another loud bang, but this time it sounded like it came from downstairs. I heard 3 more bangs throughout the night. The following morning, I had to be at work, so I cautiously made my way out of the bedroom with some pepper spray in hand. The stairway leads right to the front door, so I ran down and exited without bothering to look around. And by the way, the tenant never responded to my text. While I was thinking about it throughout the day, I convinced myself that it was likely just an old house that made a lot of noise. When I got to my room, I noticed that a few clothes I had were scattered across the floor, and my undergarments had been neatly laid out on the bed. Shortly after, the goosebumps started, and I heard a faint whisper behind me saying my name. Panicking, I ran out the house and called the police. A policewoman came and did a sweep of the main living area. Nothing was out of place. Then she looked through the second floor where the bedrooms were. Aside from my room, nothing seemed out of the ordinary. When she went to pull down the attic door, we realized it was stuck. We pulled on the string hanging from the door together and finally got it dislodged. If you know anything about these type of attic doors, you know they have a folded ladder attached to them so you can climb up. This door did not have stairs, so she couldn't even go up there. However, when the door did finally open, we realized where the smell throughout the house was coming from. Using her flashlight, she tried to see what was up there, but all we saw were wooden planks and thick cobwebs. In the house, she loudly said that nothing seems out of place and asked me to walk outside with her so she could close out the case. When we got outside, she told me what she really thought. She speculated that the tenant might still be living in the house and that I should leave immediately. I told her about my situation and how that was just not possible. So she did set me up at a women's shelter for the night and offered to accompany me back into the house the following morning so I could get my stuff out of there. I agreed. Next morning, the officer met me at the shelter to give me a ride to the house. Before we got in her car, she gave me some news that scared the absolute shit out of me. Remember the tenant? Yeah, he died in Mexico about a week before all of this started happening. The family was already aware, and an obituary with information on the funeral was posted online. The officer had already called the owner of the property to get some more information and found out that the tenant never had permission to sublet And the owner was actually in the process of filing an eviction to get him out of there for a couple of reasons. The main reason was for non-payment of rent. The other was because the landlord discovered evidence of ritualistic animal cruelty on the property. So either way, I had to leave. Thankfully, I was able to stay at the women's shelter for a few months until I got my own place. To this day, I have no idea what really happened in that house. When I was ready to get my own place, I came across a rental listing for the same house with the dead tenant's name and contact information still listed. Part of me wanted to call the number again just to see if he would answer, but so far, I've resisted the urge. Please do not call that number, okay? If you hear nothing else from me, please don't call that number. Please do not contact that person. Please do not ever go back there again. You guys leave your comments down below. What do you think this was? What a weird twist to have the tenant have passed away and then this stuff start happening.